What's going on, everybody? I'm Noah from PhoneDog.com, and this is the Sony Ericsson Xperia X1, the X1A, the US North American version. We did an unboxing video on this one before, and I've been using the phone for a little while. I wanted to give you kind of a quick review after using it for a while, and in a word, I have to say I'm kind of disappointed with the X1. And some of that honestly has to do with the fact that as of right now, it's only available unlocked in the US, and it's got an $800 price tag, which is pretty hefty. Sony's marketing it as a luxury device, and the form factor is quite nice. It's got a metal body, it's got a nice heft to it, it's got a large display, 3.2 megapixel camera with touch focus, which is kind of nice, and then this arc slider with the metal keyboard. The arc slider is actually kind of nice, provides kind of a subtle angle when you're typing on the device. It's also got a combination of touchpad or touch screen with stylus, as well as an optical mouse, as well as a D-pad. But after using the phone for a while, I have to say that and we'll get into detail on the device with this in a second, the whole Xperia X1 panels interface, interesting idea, has a long way to go to be really all that useful, I think. And also, the device, it's a Windows mobile device. There's not really a lot of innovation except for the panels, which is, again, I think kind of more potential than actually realized right now. And it suffers from the same Windows mobile quirks and lags that lots of other Windows mobile phones do. And so when you're looking at this compared to something like the HTC Touch Pro or Fuse, which you can get on contract for as low as $299, $249 maybe, depending where you shop, and then you're looking at $800 for this. Even compared to the unlocked price for the HTCs, this is still a little bit more. And mostly what you're getting is a slightly different form factor, 3.5mm headphone jack, but that's not worth a couple $100. I don't know. I have to say I was hoping for a lot more, especially considering how long it's been since this phone was originally announced and demoed at the various trade shows. And now that it's out, I feel like it's a little bit underwhelming, or if it had come out in the spring and actually shipped then, it would have been more impressive. Anyway, let's get a closer look at the Xperia X1. All right, so we'll go first to the panels interface, which you can access via this hardware button down in the bottom left corner. And basically you've got 9 panels that you can set from available panels that you can download. And again, there aren't all that many available just yet. My review unit came with 7 pre-installed, and then I installed the Facebook and Cool Hunting panels as well from what was available. But basically, several of the panels are just kind of like, the one that we showed before, the Xperia panel, is just basically a home screen, Windows Mobile Today screen with a different background. So that's the main one. We'll go back. There's another version which gives you a little bit more flexibility in terms of RSS feeds, that kind of thing. But you can see when they load up, it's not an instantaneous thing. The phone has to then kind of wake up and connect to the data connection. I've actually been having some difficulty with this one, although it looks like it's going better now, with the data connection via AT&T, over their HSDPA network. I also used it with T-Mobile on the Edge network, and that worked fine, but obviously it's much slower. So you can configure your RSS feeds and weather widget, set the clock for where you are, all that kind of stuff. And it's nice, but it's not it's not all that much more than HTC's TouchFlow 3D offers. It's just a slightly different look, and so there are other panels available as well. The media player panel is pretty nice. It's the Sony Ericsson interface, which kind of plays off of both the Walkman series and the PSP interfaces. You can scroll and move around using the optical D-pad or the hardware D-pad. There's an optical mouse kind of in the middle of a traditional D-pad here. The D-pad's, it's a little bit funny to use because of the way it's laid out. It's so small, and the regular D-pad is kind of like a square made of ridges, and then the optical mouse is set, inset a little bit, kind of recessed a little bit inside of it, and it's pretty easy to accidentally trigger the optical D-pad. There are settings you can use though to change the way that the D-pad works and kind of adapt it to your style, but not the best industrial design there. Anyway, The interface for the media works nicely, and you can scroll through your videos and your music and everything else, and you can swipe to move back and forth in the menu hierarchy. So this panel is pretty nice. If we go back, show you the Facebook panel, which I downloaded, which is a free download. And this is pretty, it's interesting because this is pretty cool, but I'm going to log in. All right, so as I was saying, the Facebook panel for the X1 is really cool, although I don't know how useful it is if you're a hardcore Facebook user. If you've used, just the Facebook mobile site or the Facebook app for iPhone or BlackBerry, they're a little more geared towards, they're kind of more utilitarian in terms of easily being able to get through your different options for messaging with friends or checking your status feed, updating your own status, reading their posted items, that kind of thing. The panel for X1 takes a different tack, and it's very visual, and so there I am in the middle, and then these are all different people who I'm friends with, and you can see them by their icons, by their avatars, their Facebook photos, which is pretty cool. And then if you want to know what one of them is up to, you tap on them, and then you get their status feed update. So that's pretty neat, and then you can click through, and then you get to this kind of more traditional menu. And again, it's a different take, and it's kind of cool, but there aren't that many panels around, and it's a little bit slow, to load up. Part of that's dependent on network speed, obviously, but you can see, I'm waiting here for my Facebook stuff to load. And so the screen is small enough, physically, with all these different buttons and everything going on, that there's not a whole lot of room for the actual information in the middle. So, it's an interesting take here, but I don't know, nothing groundbreaking, but kind of cool. The main screen with the bubbles floating around is kind of interesting. We'll go back to the panel interface now, and you can see, there's definitely a little bit of a hardware lag when you're switching, or software lag rather, when you're switching from panel to panel, application to application, that kind of thing. Here's the 3D fish panel, which again, nothing necessarily to write home about. It's cute, but and so beyond that, it's basically a Windows mobile phone. So you've got your start menu, and it's got GPS, it's got multiband 3G, it's got Wi-Fi, it's got Office Mobile built in. The media player is good, 3.5mm headphone jack on the top. I'll show you Opera on it. But again, for what it is and when it finally came out and what it costs especially, you're really paying, I think, more for the premium than for the usability of the device, the premium of the styling and this new Xperia brand name. And it's kind of too bad for Sony Ericsson, I think, that the phone finally came out when the economy took the hit that it did. The keyboard works pretty well, because I don't know how many people are going to be up for spending $800 on an unlocked phone in the U.S. market, is what I was trying to say. The keyboard is pretty nice. It's a little bit flush mounted, but it's nice and big. The keys are staggered, nice big space bar, and the keys, I don't know if you can see this on camera, but the keys all have kind of a diagonal raised ridge on them. So there's good tactile feedback. It's easy to kind of get around on the keys without looking if you're a touch thumb typist. So we'll load up the phone dog page. And again, the arc slider puts the screen at a little bit of an angle relative to the phone, to the keypad, which makes it a little easier to view. And then there's a nice ridge, depending on how you hold your phone. I like to hold it with my two index fingers kind of resting behind the screen, with the screen resting on them, and it's very comfortable. And it's definitely a little bit thinner of a profile than another HTC built phone like the Touch Pro or Fuse. So it's a little more pocketable, I think. It's longer, but thinner, which is kind of nice. So here's Opera Mobile on the device, and my page is still loading there, but you can see it works well. I can scroll with the optical mouse, or I can grab the screen and move around. Works quite nicely. Double tap to zoom in. and then close the phone to rotate. And we'll fire up Google Maps. And so that works pretty well as well. It's pretty quick. You know, the performance of the phone is fine. Again, kind of the standard Windows Mobile lags, although Google Maps is pretty zippy. And I can... Zooming works well. That's where we are, Phone Dog West, downtown Berkeley. Go to pictures and videos. And here's the camera interface. And so, as I mentioned, it's got this touch focus thing where I'll put a few things out. And I can choose, as I'm taking a picture here, if I want to focus on the cable or the manual there. So, you know, it works for us. Sony Ericsson camera phones have always had pretty good cameras. Megapixel count is only 3.2 megapixels, but the image quality is pretty good. And there's an LED flash. And, you know, I honestly think that the megapixel count is a little bit overrated unless you're really planning to print all of your photos out in a large format, because mostly what people do is they take a picture and they upload it or they send it on picture messaging or email, and people aren't, you know, generally speaking, people aren't really printing a lot of, well, I don't know, maybe you are, but I think people get all caught up in the megapixel count and don't think about the image quality as well. So you've got your options. You can send your message off in an email, or you can send it off in a picture message. You can get your information about the phone, about your photo. You can save the save stuff on the phone itself in internal memory, or you can save using you can insert a micro SD memory card into the phone. I'll get the back panel off here. And you can see the micro SD card slot. Nice to see Sony moving away from their proprietary memory stick format to the standard micro SD based memory. Back panel, as you can see, just kind of snaps on and off. It's pretty easy to get on and off, even though I'm kind of struggling with it now. There we go. You know, the brush metal is nice. The form factor is pretty nice. The panels thing, I think, you know, like I said, at this point, we have to see how many people develop for it and what comes of it. You know, and it's got these little flick through animations and stuff. But again, I think the phone itself is a nice Windows Mobile device, and the form factor is pretty nice. I prefer this, like I said, to the Touch Pro and Fuse because it's a little longer and thinner. So you've got, you know, a little bit bigger screen, a little bit more pocketable, and the nice big keypad. And obviously the 3.5mm headphone jack is nice. But, you know, I think if this phone had come out six or so months ago, and it was, I mean, even an unlocked price like $600 would be more in line, you know, a couple $100 cheaper would be more in line with what Nokia is charging for their high-end flagship phones. So, you know, I'd also would have liked to have seen a little bit more in terms of the panels, but when you get underneath it, the music player interface is nice, the camera's nice. So there you go. You know, all in all, I think if you're willing to pay for it and you want Windows Mobile, it's a good device, but it's not the groundbreaking new Sony Ericsson phone that, frankly, I think we were all hoping for when it was first announced way back when, earlier this year. So there you go. Kind of lukewarm on the Xperia X1, but definitely worth checking out if you're in the mood for a luxurious Windows Mobile phone with pretty good multimedia capabilities. There you go. It's the Xperia X1 from Sony Ericsson. I'm Noah from PhoneDog.com. Much more on this phone and all the other new Windows Mobile phones over on PhoneDog.com. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.